Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 67 of the Bladeology podcast. First of all, I'd like to thank our new sponsor, the New Jersey Steel Baron, who has everything and anything you need to get going with knives, including of which very fresh, very rare, and on deck is the Hitachi Aogami Blue and Hitachi Shirogami White. This steel is available for purchase at NewJerseySteelBaron.com. This is pretty amazing stuff to have stateside and ready to order. So go over there, check it out, give them a call, tell Pete and the boys that the podcast sent you. Thanks so much, everybody. Hope you enjoy the new episode. All right, we're going to jump into this like we do every week. Welcome to another episode of the Bladeology podcast. We are here again, as we always are. Myself, Jeremiah Burbank from PBK.com, hosting with my co-host, Nicholas Chuprin from NCC Knives. Nick, how you doing?
Great.
Good to have you here. And we are on with a guest who's become somewhat of a regular guest, happy to say, Chuck Gudreas of Gudreas Handcrafted Knives. Chuck, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Awesome. All right, so we're here approximately a week after the much anticipated, talked about, promoted, and exciting Portland show, which wasn't actually in Portland. It was just outside Portland in Seaside. Nick and I were not able to go this year, unfortunately, but our guest Chuck did go, and he is here to regale us with tales of such travel and splendor. Yes?
Travel, splendor, food. It was the Pacific Northwest Custom Invitational. And it was July 29th, but I arrived on July 25th, which was the Tuesday before the show. I had never been to Oregon before, and I wanted to take some time to explore that part of the country. Flew in on Tuesday, got there about 11:15 a.m. West Coast time, and checked into the hotel, and immediately went to one of the food pods, which are permanently mounted food trucks, and there's this particular one is called Prost, and we chose that one because there's a show on Netflix called Somebody Feed Phil, and it's an eating show kind of similar to Anthony Bourdain, and there was a food truck there named Matt's Barbecue at this particular food pod that we went to specifically, and the barbecue was absolutely amazing. Oh, wow. It was wonderful. Brisket, this jalapeno cheddar sausage, the sides were great, mac and cheese, cornbread, your typical barbecue fare, but for a food truck, it was pretty amazing.
So tell me a little bit more about this. So it's a food pod. So it's a permanent food truck. Is that what you're?
Yeah, there's a group of permanently mounted food trucks. This one was covered. There's picnic tables in the center, and the trucks are on the perimeter. There's a bar that serves beverages, coffee, adult beverages, and then there are other food trucks, Indian, Asian, there's a seafood one, and this barbecue truck. And there's a restaurant next door that's also called Probst, but the whole section is specifically just for the food trucks. And this even had the barbecue food truck had a self-ordering kiosk. So instead of going up to the window and ordering, they're like, you can order right over there. And you go in and just pick out what you want, and they'll call your number when it's ready.
That's very fancy.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is food truck advanced. This is food truck next level. This is like almost basically a restaurant, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so great way to start the trip. Hit the ground running, grab some barbecue.
From there, wandered around a little bit in that neighborhood. There was a Blue Star Donuts that we happened upon, and I had heard much about them. I guess the other main donut place in Portland is Voodoo Donuts, which I did not sample, but the Blue Star were absolutely amazing. Like artisan donuts, bourbon, blueberry, basil. There was a Contro creme brulee donut, which had this little plastic syringe of Contro alcohol stuck into it that you would squeeze into the donut itself.
So you're injecting the donut with flavor.
Yes.
Wow.
With Contro orange flavored liqueur.
Huh. With like a plastic syringe, disposable, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's intense.
There was a strawberry or raspberry cheesecake donut with pistachio on top. And the highlight of the show was a passion fruit donut that had chocolate nibs on top. And the passion fruit flavor was so powerful. It really came through. It was wonderful. It's nothing like no donut I've ever had.
Wow. Okay, so this was serious. This was serious donuts. This was like proper donutry. This is not like classic New England donuts. This is like next level donuts.
Absolutely.
Everything about this experience so far seems to be the food is phenomenal, which is that sounds pretty good. Okay. All right. So Blue Star Donuts. I know Nick and I have been to Portland before, and we favored Voodoo Donuts, but I think
that's just because the location.
Right. The location had a lot to do with it. Its proximity to certain venues that we were frequenting. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't actually get to try the Blue Star.
Highly recommended.
Okay. All right. What next after donutries?
That was pretty much Tuesday. It had been a long day of travel. Crashed. We had rented a car at the airport to be able to drive around. I had reserved a small SUV, and what I got was a hybrid Jeep Wrangler.
Oof. Okay. Was that? That doesn't sound. Was it?
It was fun.
Those new 4EX things or 4XE things.
Yeah, it was nice. It was fun to drive around.
Was it like neutered, or was it kind of still had some balls?
No, you could get out of its own way. It was good.
Right. It's like the Toyotas where it's a gas engine plus.
Oh, okay.
Instead of like it's 4-cylinder hybrid, I got 50 miles a gallon. It doesn't get that much more like than the normal one, but it's meant for. It's more so for torque. It's the initial oomph.
2-door or 4-door Wrangler?
4-door.
Oh, okay.
But it had oversized tires and
the whole thing.
It was customized a little bit.
So you kind of had to rent the car anyway due to the location of the show.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So otherwise, you could Uber from the airport to your hotel, but the show was no longer in downtown Portland like last year.
Okay. Change of location. So you guys got into Portland, spent a day sort of bouncing around a little bit, but you were there for a bit. You're saying that was on Tuesday. That was Tuesday.
Wednesday, we decided to go check out all the waterfalls in eastern Oregon. Multnomah Falls, Horsetail Falls, Columbia River Gorge, yes. So we checked out the falls, did some hiking. There was a fish hatchery that we went to that raises sturgeon, Chinook salmon, and rainbow trout. So you get to wander around the hatchery. They had some sturgeon that were 6 feet long.
That's a big fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't spawn till they're at least 25 years old, the females. So that's a big fish and it's old.
So is this for fishing, catch and release? You don't get to keep it.
Oh, it was just a hatchery.
It's just a hatchery.
To release fish into the Columbia River to restore the population of sturgeon.
Gotcha. Of ancient prehistoric fish.
Yes.
Which have scales.
Yes. And I got to eat it at one of the restaurants.
Oh, okay. Look at that.
It was actually
This is where they're born and this is where they die.
Yes.
Okay.
It was actually really good. This white flaky fish.
Okay. Like a halibut or something?
Yeah. More comparable to a halibut.
Okay.
It wasn't dense like a swordfish.
Okay.
I also had halibut fish and chips while I was there.
Good.
And that was very tasty. That was good. We had brought Jeremy Marsh and his family with us. Oh. They met us at the falls, and we took one vehicle to drive around to check all of them because a lot of them had limited parking. So if you had two, you might not be able to find a place to park for everyone. So it was fun to hang out with them.
Nice. So that's cool. Sort of like knife maker family meetup. You guys are in the area doing the same thing. Did you share travel schedules for the whole show or just for that day?
Just for that day, but we also all stayed at the same hotel.
Oh,
so we ran into them on occasion as well.
Well, that's cool. All right, that adds a level to it. So we're on Wednesday or Thursday?
That was Wednesday, and then Thursday we packed up, checked out of the hotel. We went to Pittock Mansion, which is on the way to Seaside. It's from a very affluent family that lived there, turn of the century. They were so well off that they had 2 phone systems because there were 2 different phone systems back then. like Verizon and AT&T, and if you only had one, then you couldn't call other people who had a different version.
Like Ma Bell?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay.
But there were a lot of technological advances in the house that they had. They had showers that were pretty fancy, which had multiple jets to wash your body as opposed to just over your head. They had plate warmers in the kitchen, and the view of the city was pretty amazing because it's high up top, one of the hills, just outside the city.
So obviously, technological advances for the era of the building of the house.
Yes,
okay,
correct.
I gotcha. So a stop at Pittock Mansion. That sounds fun.
Yep.
Okay.
And then proceeded to Seaside in Oregon.
What's the distance from like downtown Portland? You guys were sort of in downtown where the hotel was?
Yes, we were downtown. The Hotel Zags, right downtown.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Seaside's an hour and a half from downtown Portland. So anyone who was going to the knife show, it was a little bit of an endeavor because you had to rent a car.
Oh, so you didn't stay at the location of the show?
We did. We drove up there Thursday and then stayed in Seaside where the show was Thursday, Friday,
you went
Saturday.
back to downtown.
Went back to Portland on Sunday and then flew home on Monday.
Jesus, so wow. So checked out of the hotel, travel to Seaside, about an hour and a half?
About an hour and a half.
And then where was in Seaside? It was at a convention center, right?
It was at the Seaside Convention Center.
Okay.
And the inn at Seaside was directly across the street, which was very convenient.
Is that where like most people stayed?
Yeah.
Was that the chosen sort of venue location?
More or less, yeah.
They had blocks or something?
Yeah, that location reminded me of like Portland, Maine.
Oh,
being right on the coast. There's a boardwalk.
Nice.
Little bit of vibes of Hampton Beach,
okay,
where there's arcades and saltwater taffy and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so very much just like classical Seaside, basically, like what I would think of as the shore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that sounds very nice, very bucolic.
Yeah, it was nice. The water was really cold, but every morning I'd get up and go for a walk on the boardwalk and do a couple of miles just to get some steps in. So it was nice. It was different.
So in on Thursday, check in. Thursday night. The show is just on
Saturday.
So you still had a couple of days.
Still had Friday.
So Thursday night, how did it go?
Went out for pizza.
Right.
Kirby Lambert had flown in and got up there, and he crashed with us.
Nice.
And so
like in your room?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Party.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
And another long day of traveling. So
yeah. Drinks, go to sleep.
Pretty much. There's a fire pit outside at the hotel, so hung out outside with Jeremy Marsh, some of the collectors, some other makers.
All right.
And called it a night. Friday went up to Astoria.
Oh yeah. The Goonies.
Right. Checked out the Goonie house.
Cool.
Where Chunk has to do the truffle shuffle.
Right.
And just walked around. It's a little seaside town. There's lots of shopping, jewelry stores, art stores, lots of like little antique shops. Looked at some watches. So
did you buy any?
I didn't. I looked at a like 70s Gruen automatic.
Okay.
But the plastic crystal had some real deep scratches and stuff on it.
How far is Astoria from Seaside?
About 30 minutes.
Okay, so it's not like a huge drive. It's within reason. Okay. All right. So Friday, that's pretty good. So once you're at the show location on Thursday, then it is nice because it's sort of like it's two trips in one. Essentially, you get to see Portland, and then you get to see the whole Seaside. You're in Astoria because the coast of Portland is basically magical. Like I have spent some time there, in and out of knife shows, sometimes not knife shows. I traveled there, and it's just amazing. Like the size of the trees are huge. Like we don't have trees like that on the East Coast anymore because we sent them all to England, and the ones on the West Coast of Portland, they're giant. They're huge. It's a bit rainy all the time, but it has a sort of vibe to it, very Goonies-esque.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so Astoria was cool on Friday, and then back to Seaside?
Back to Seaside.
Okay.
That was pretty much it for Friday.
Wow.
Called it an early night because I didn't want to be out too late.
Sure.
Because the show is Saturday.
So, was there any kind of... So there was, as far as pre-show... There wasn't no like a pit or a hotel bar necessarily?
Not necessarily. No, people are hanging out around the fire pits at their hotels that were outside. You can also have fires on the beach if you wanted to buy some firewood. They did that Saturday night after the show. But so Saturday morning, got up, went over to the show. There was no assigned tables, so you walked in, and depending on what time you walked in, if you were there early, you could get a table closer to the door, closer to the front. If you got there late, you were in the back.
So it was first come, first served tables for makers?
For makers. No assigned tables.
Okay. Huh.
So
what were the actual show running times? Is it like Kentucky where it starts later in the day or it's in the morning?
So the show opened to VIPs at 11 a.m. and opened to the public at 12 and ran till 7 p.m. Most people were done by 4 p.m., 5 p.m. at the latest.
Okay, so 7-hour show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty. What's Kentucky? Kentucky's shorter than that.
Kentucky's 4 hours.
4 hours? Yeah. Wow.
It's 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
Everyone starts the show hammered, and all the attendees are also hammered because it starts at 6 p.m.
Was there must have been libations at the show.
There were some, but not a lot. Okay. They handed out bottles of water to everybody.
That's kind of like, yeah, all right. Sure.
They also handed out knives to everyone who attended the show.
Oh, okay. So tell us some of these particulars that I was hearing so much about. The show was highly anticipated with lots of sponsorship and lots of giveaways. Tell me a little bit about that.
CRKT was there, and they had giveaways. There were some representatives from Glock there. There were some local firearms manufacturers there. Anyone who walked through the door who was an attendee was given a knife that had been donated by Kershaw or CRKT.
Literally just for you. Like, here's a knife.
Here you go. Yep. So everybody who walked through the door as an attendee got a knife.
I mean, like, okay, obviously brass tacks on that. They're Chinese-made knives. They're little, like, you can give them away. But that's really cool, though.
Yeah, it's
like,
an incentive to come,
neat.
Especially because if you wanted to be there, like I said, it was a bit of an adventure and an endeavor to be there at the show. Yeah. But they made it worth your while.
Well, and it's really cool because, like, this show is so, I would consider this an interior knife industry show, right? Like, if you wanted to go to the show, you knew about the show, you're traveling to the show, this isn't Blade's show. Like, you're not really getting casuals coming to this show, which means it is going to have naturally a smaller customer basis. It's really neat for Kershaw and CRKT to recognize the show, considering all of those things I just listed, and show up. Because they're like, we know that this isn't necessarily going to be worth it, but we understand that these people are crucial to our market. Like, these are either makers we collaborate with or certainly customers who buy our knives. So, I mean, it's neat to see those giant production companies at essentially a relatively small show. Like,
well, it's also an opportunity for these production companies, primarily CRKT, to be able to talk to makers and see where the market is going and maybe do collaborations with them, because there aren't a lot of other production companies that are currently doing collaborations with custom makers.
Right. Yeah, I know a lot of the standard import guy, like we in Civivi, I think they're sort of like telling people, like, we're closed off for now, we're not really doing that. So I mean, okay, that's cool. So you have even two sides of that, which is they recognized the show, they came, and they were able to connect with makers directly. Did you see a lot of that at the show? Did you hear a lot of people interacting with these companies? Like, oh yeah, like I was able to talk to CRKT about a deal?
Yeah, absolutely. I even had CRKT, one of their designers or engineers, manufacturing people, come and talk to me about some of my knives, because there's a direction that they would like to move into that they're currently not involved in.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Yeah, okay.
And so
right.
I would like to be a part of that. And then I showed them a couple of other things that I had previously built that might be in their wheelhouse and that they were kind of excited to see. Okay. So I have a couple of prototypes I have to build and send to them for their approval and see what they think.
That's awesome. I mean, congratulations. Now I remember what you said, but I will assume I will not mention those.
Yeah, it's probably better not to. I also talked to a representative from Case Knives.
Oh yeah, that okay. Can we talk about that?
And we talked a little about the direction that the company wants to take, because they're known for their traditional pocket knives. They've started making flippers and frame locks and such, but we talked about an aspect that they haven't been involved in probably 100 years that they would like to venture back into, to be part of other markets other than just the traditional folding knife market.
So they acknowledged that history and said to you, we're trying to get back into that.
Yeah, they have stuff in the works that they said.
Wow, that's cool. I mean,
they didn't speak specifics.
Okay. We're talking about knives with springs in them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to be clear, we're talking about goddamn switchblades. Okay, it's about time. Okay. All right.
So I encouraged that.
Sure.
I also had some input. So they're supposed to reach out to me as well and see what happens.
So wow. Okay, so we had Glock, Kershaw, CRKT, Case. Anybody else? Like Leatherman. Was Tim Leatherman himself just like walking around?
I don't think he was there.
Okay.
No, unfortunately. Benchmade was not there.
Benchmade's in Portland. Is there anybody else in Portland I can think about? No, I think that's
Just
it.
think about what that Portland store and that REI in Portland was carrying.
Oh yeah,
it was just all Portland-based knife companies.
Which is easy because it's all those guys. Oh, it's all those guys. Huh. Okay. So anyway, so that is great to see those guys coming to the show. Obviously, congratulations. Sounds like you made some good connections.
Good connections. Yeah. I sold some knives. That's the point of the show.
What'd you bring? We saw it on Instagram. You brought some manuals and some autos.
All autos.
All autos. Okay.
Switch Army switchblades. I brought 2 small Marauder autos, a fancy latch release auto, and a really fancy dagger scale release auto. Damascus scales, Damascus blade. I had an open bid, which was a Switch Army switchblade with a Damascus blade and Damascus scales, and that did well. Although I opened it up to online bidding as well, and so that helped. But yeah, I mean, the show was good. I can't complain. It was well run, well organized for the most part, even though there weren't assigned tables. But
tell me, let's dive into that a little bit before we get into some specifics. How was the first? That seems strange. Is that strange?
To not have an assigned table?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Was it a little bit nerve-wracking? Like, did you know that there was no assigned table ahead of time?
I did not.
Okay.
So walking in, you ask, and they say, "Oh, just wherever you want to set up."
Okay.
So the nerve-wracking part is, who do you want to be near?
Well,
do you want to be near someone who's going to have a big draw and draw a lot of people, and that way you get some of the overflow to see your knives?
Okay.
Or do you want to be? I don't know. It was difficult to strategically pick a table.
Right, because there's so much there. There's politics, obviously. That's just how this is. So there's politics. Then there's like / friendships. Like people sometimes get along and sometimes people don't get along. And knife makers are human beings. So I mean that seems like if I were in your shoes, it would be a bit nerve-wracking. I'd be like, time to make a weird decision. Because then, right, you want to be near somebody with a big draw, but then sometimes I feel like sometimes that's not great because then you have a table, and then if your draw is, say, less than them, then your table's just overflowing with all these other people trying to get to this other guy's table.
Yeah, you kind of get ignored.
Yeah, that's a problem with a lot of shows. Like
it's
you see sometimes old school guys, they don't understand like the new makers would sell stuff, but then people just hang out and talk. Like a group of like 15 gather in front of the table for an hour just drinking beers. Right. You'll just see the old dude like next to him, like, what is going on? Like,
or people who have a
table?
Or people who have a lottery. Everyone's standing around, overflowing to the tables past that particular maker who's running the lottery, and sometimes knives go missing that way, unfortunately, or they're concentrating on the maker who's having the lottery, listening for their name or their ticket number, and they don't even look at what you have on your table.
Right. Okay, well.
So I was across from Kevin Foster, and next to a guy who does leather goods, and then Philip Booth was a couple tables down from me. Princeton Wong was a couple tables down from me, and David Sharp was diagonally across from me. So yeah, as soon as the show opened, basically you could see the knives on his table. You turned your head, and in a blink, they were all gone.
I would love an L&L for my personal collection.
Minutes.
I think they're pretty neat. Okay, huh? Okay. So I mean, overall good placement. I mean, that's kind of neat. I don't know if it was purposeful, but I mean, like you, Phil, and Princeton. I mean, those guys brought autos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's neat to have all sort of the autos in the general area.
Yeah, and Eric Touch was there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Autos are legal in Portland.
Right.
There were a few people from Seattle who had driven down, and they said, "Oh, these are really nice, but we're not allowed to own automatics." And it's like, all right,
sure. That's so funny. Like, yeah. like customers are like, oh, it's too bad you can't ship this to me in California. And I'm like, yeah, the border patrol in California is terrible. They tear open all the mail. They take the knives. And they're like, really? And I'm like, no, there's no border between California and the rest of the world. It's a state. It's part of the United States. But like people are like, oh, I just can't do it.
There was a very famous knife maker there who a lot of people came to see, took pictures with, got autographs from.
Who was that?
Michael Walker, who had one knife for sale.
Really?
Which sold. There was a dealer who was supposed to come to the show, and I guess he just made a phone call and he bought it before the show opened.
Oh, okay. Wasn't Paul, was it?
No.
Okay.
But you could see it on his table.
Oh, he had it for display,
Yeah,
right?
he had it for display.
I love that. I bought that knife. Can I just leave it on my table the whole show so everybody can finger it and then you can have it when it's done? Like, I guess. Like, I understand that's how the game works, but like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was cool of him to come. I mean, he's certainly nowhere near Portland.
No.
So how was overall attendance? Like, we talk about this a lot. Knife shows, right? We're always big proponents of going to a knife show. Doorbusters. Like, you're saying there were VIP at 11?
At 11.
So what was 11:01 like? I mean, were there people like running in? Like, how tell me a little bit.
There
about
were
that.
people running in for first come first serves,
Okay.
and to get on lottery lists for things like Nux, Donnie Starco.
Oh, Starco gear.
Yes, so there were a
Right.
lot of people that ran in for that.
Okay.
Jerry McGinnis was there. He had a lottery. He had brought quite a few knives. I think he had 16 knives.
Oh wow. Okay.
So a lot of people ran in for some first come first serve stuff. Starlinger.
Right there, local to there.
and,
Sure.
Steel Flame.
Steel Flame.
Specifically Steel Flame.
Underground.
Yeah, they had some cool stuff. They had some
Derek
clips
Skull.
that were Hanzo masks. Like the top half was blued steel and the bottom half was gold with sapphires in the eyes.
Spicy.
That was an open bid one.
I can only imagine.
Big bucks.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
we must be talking about a few $100s at least, maybe $200-$300 here.
Add another zero
Wow.
to that.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Good for those guys. I love that. Seeing that stuff is great. Love to see the ingenuity coming out of the Steel Flame. Those guys are awesome.
I think for clips like that, if you were lucky enough to get it,
Sure.
that you could approach a maker and have him build and design a knife based around the theme of the clip.
Hell yeah. I would totally.
Like
Oh, that was a clip? I think it was a mask.
No, it was a Hanzo mask on a clip.
Oh.
We talked about this and I looked up the clip and I was like, that's actually pretty dope. I
Yeah.
was like, that's pretty cool. Like, okay. Like, you just can't, like, I mean, you can. Lots of people hate, but, like, the Steel Flame thing with giant skulls and shit, like, it's pretty neat. Like, John he kept, like, a darkness skull, and it's basically the size of the entire pocket clip. You must have seen it.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
And I'm just like, it's ridiculous, but, like, it's a fashion statement. I'm like, it's kind of cool.
Oh, it sends a message if you see that clip to someone's pocket. You're like,
Yeah.
you have a big skull clip to your pocket. Like, what's attached to the rest of that? Like,
a
I'm
UTX
guessing it's a
70.
knife. but-
Like, tiny, very tiny knife. Okay, so people were rushing in for first come first serves. That's good to see. Do you think that more people dove in for the VIP passes over standard passes? Do you think how was the spread between 11 and an hour later, like
Well,
11:01 to 12:01?
There was also another pass. There was a golden ticket. There were 3 of them. From what I understand, 2 of them were open bid, and the proceeds went to a charity. So 2 people were able to buy them, and then 1 was given to someone who was a registered attendee. And basically, it allowed you to come in before 11 a.m. and buy one you and your significant other, your spouse or your partner,
girlfriend or whatever, sure.
Yeah, and the 2 of you could each buy one first come first serve item before anybody else.
Oh
could come in.
wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Jack Alvarez. Wow, that's crazy. That's great.
No, he wasn't there.
Oh wow. Okay.
But there was a couple who had one, and they purchased a knife from the gentleman next to me, who escapes my name at the moment. But they came back, and the wife and the husband both liked the 2 Marauder autos I had, and they couldn't decide. So while he was off doing something else, she came back and bought both of them as a surprise for him.
That's legit. That's
Because she
good
liked
customers.
one, and he liked the other, but he couldn't decide which one he liked better. So this way, they each got one.
Wow. That's neat. I like that idea of the sort of the golden ticket, and good on those guys to give that money to charity, because that is certainly that's wild. I mean, whatever those tickets went for, I'm sure it was worth it, the chance to get into a show before anybody else does. There's a high level of exclusivity involved there as well. So
I think that some of the money from one of them went to Andy Frankart and his family.
Oh, okay. That's right.
His wife is, I guess, battling cancer still.
I saw, Ian at CMF, I saw on his Facebook group.
Yeah.
Was doing a whole thing for Andy, which is awesome. So
it's kind of neat to be able to give back to the community like that.
Right.
So, if other shows could give out a golden ticket like that, these small boutique shows, that's a way to generate money for a good cause.
I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot of those golden tickets. That's a great idea. And it is, I think, these shows are so crucial for the community and for the knife makers and for everybody. But really, like, at the end of the day, I know a lot of it's about, sort of catering to the makers, which is, I get it, right? You guys are like sort of the rock stars. Everybody comes to see you, and it's also really nice to see the show itself, who is supporting the makers. Then the show is also supporting the customers, or the collector group in this case, and certainly the makers. Obviously, they give back, but it's nice to see that full circle. So I would not be surprised if we see this golden ticket trend sort of ripple through the show scene, which would be great.
Absolutely, I agree.
That'd be cool. All right, so sounds like it was great attendance.
Yeah, it was good. It was hardcore collectors who wanted to be there. It wasn't people who decided to just drive in for the day and check it out and see what a knife show is all about. They were there for specific reasons to buy knives.
No casuals. I mean, the travel involved, it's the whole thing.
It's very, very involved, very expensive to get there, to get to the show, to do the show.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Oh, I heard that so you mentioned that Glock was there. So what was the deal with the Glock giveaway? Somebody got a Glock.
There was a Glock giveaway, I guess, on Sunday. Billy Cho put a post in the Pacific Northwest Custom Invitational Facebook page saying, if you're still here in Seaside, there's one more giveaway. Post a picture of yourself at the show or in Seaside, and we'll pick a winner. So it was for attendees only, from what I understand. And I don't know if they chose a winner. It was a certificate for a Glock. So it wasn't an actual firearm. It was the certificate for a free one. So I guess you'd get the certificate and be able to go to your local firearm store.
That sounds like
cash it in.
Good, probably like a travel loophole or something.
Yeah.
Like, can't just go get a Glock somewhere and then travel back with it without shipping it to an FFL. Better just have a certificate.
Yeah.
Probably just keep that certificate, put it on the wall, be like, it's a free gun right there. See that? It's a free gun. One of these days, I'm going to cash that bitch in. Like, all right. Okay, wow, that's awesome. Hopefully somebody got a cool Glock.
Yeah.
Any other particulars of the show that sort of stood out? How was the after show? Pit sort of get together?
After the show, people left, and later on that evening, there were fire pits on the beach. So a lot of people that were at the show, makers and attendees, showed up. They made s'mores. Bob Terzola and his wife made marshmallow roasting sticks. Which,
like custom ones?
Custom ones, yeah. They were wooden dowels that they painted, had their logo.
That's pretty neat still.
On the end, like, it was a little plastic stick-on logo, and they made the wires out of welding TIG wire. It was stainless steel TIG wire.
Cool.
And so people were roasting marshmallows and making s'mores and, beers on the beach. And
sure.
It was a good time.
So it sounds like the show had a great vibe to it.
It did, yeah. It was one of those more of a get-together, low-key, kind of slow-paced, relaxed show. It wasn't like Blade Show where the doors open and people were literally running to makers.
Right.
People came in and,
So what? Okay, so other small detail. Food. Did you guys get food? Like, some shows provide. Like, I know Kentucky. You guys get food. Was there food involved from the show to the maker?
There was not. Like, you could order DoorDash or whatever in the area, but
all right,
there wasn't.
Gotcha. That's great. It sounds like a good vibe. It sounds like everyone's hanging out, right? Sort of taking it easy, just enjoying the show for exactly what it is, which is a knife show. Come hang out with your friends. Come see some cool knives.
It's got the West Coast feel where it's just more relaxed and laid back. Nobody's in a hurry.
Okay. All right. I like it. After show sounds like some s'mores. It's really neat that they made the Terzulas made marshmallow sticks. That's kind of neat. I would probably. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So that was Saturday. Jeez, now we still have Sunday. So you guys checked out of the hotel?
Checked out of the hotel, left Sunday morning, headed back to Portland with Kirby Lambert because he was flying out Monday as well. So he drove back with us,
Hmm.
and there was this nook underneath the desk in the hotel room that once we took the chair out and moved the trash basket, it was like the perfect size for Kirby. So he basically he slept in the nook underneath the desk, and he comes prepared. He brought one of these self-inflating mattresses
See that? There you go.
that you just
Okay.
roll up, and when
Yeah.
you unroll it, it's got
yeah.
foam inside. So he
Got one.
Jerry
made
used
his
to roll
bed.
around one of those at the shows.
and,
Yeah.
and he slept under there, and he got up in the morning and left Monday morning, and then so when I say we, my friend Jeff Laramie, who's a knife collector, we travel together to shows.
Cool.
And so we left Monday morning, returned the car to the airport, and boarded our plane, and off we went back to Boston.
Wow, that's wild because you basically were there for almost a week.
Almost a week, yeah.
That is like a long time.
It was like a couple of days too long.
Well,
It should have been. It could have been a little bit shorter. Like got there
Okay.
on Thursday or Wednesday, and then left Sunday instead of Monday. But I turned it into a little mini vacation,
Sure.
especially when you've never been to that part of the country. There are things you want to see. It's a great way to explore. The Columbia River Gorge was pretty amazing.
All right.
Next time, I think if I went back, I'd like to actually get on the river,
Oh yeah.
try to do some sturgeon fishing or kayaking.
I was gonna say I'm
or
surprised
something.
you didn't go fishing.
Yeah,
It
that's
seems
why
like this is the only
I
show
know.
you didn't go fishing at.
I looked into it, but time constraints. I just didn't have the time to do it.
I was
Just
wondering
didn't
if
have
you
time.
went because they said they were going like 5 a.m. to go do that.
Who was that?
Pete and the NJ Steelbearer crew go all the time when they're there for the Blade the West shows, the bigger ones. So Chuck was by my table at Blade. I just looked over at Dale and I was like, talk to Dale about
Yeah,
the
we
sturgeon
talked
fishing.
about it, but didn't really bring fishing related gear and clothing.
Okay.
So
Chuck's a purist.
No, I get it. I've experienced it. I've seen it. I know the deal. All right. So, are you gonna go next year?
that's a good question.
Okay. All right.
Maybe. I mean, usually I do Blade Show, and then I
Okay.
chase fish all summer long.
Right.
So I was, leisurely building knives for this show while trying to enjoy some of the summer.
Mm.
We'll see if I get invited back.
It's true. It's an
That's part of it,
invitational.
too. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. All right. And does anybody know if they've announced a next year show yet?
I haven't heard anything yet.
I haven't heard anything yet for
Okay.
dates for it.
So we're waited in bated breath to hear about the invitational for next year. Sounds like it was fun. Chuck had a good time. Sold the knives. Enjoyed a vacation. That is the idea, after all. Maybe a little too long, but that's okay, nonetheless. So what are we looking at now? We're almost at the end of summer, so we're headed towards USN in Las Vegas. Mr. Chuprin, I'm looking at you. If you could move a little closer to the microphone.
I'm plenty close. Yeah, it's I was gonna say early September, but I guess it actually starts end of August. The show.
Yeah.
It's Vegas. Same as last year. Show up, we sell things. We try to sell things. We see people.
When you
friends.
say we, who's we?
I don't know.
Okay.
I spaced out for a second.
Okay.
No, I'm actually looking forward to USN this year, just because I kind of want to go to Vegas. But we'll see how it goes this year. Last year was a little weird. It was the first year where it didn't feel like a knife show. It felt like an everything but knife show almost.
A little bit.
So we'll see how the crowd is this time and how the attendees are and how it's ran.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to it.
I've
Nice.
talked to some other makers who were there and have been to the gathering previous years. And last year when they got there, they looked around and they didn't know any of the people that were there that were also exhibiting.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of new makers and a lot of new.
I didn't recognize half the faces. Even people who like every show, like some of these clients and collectors are professionals at this. Like
Yeah.
you see them over and over every show. Like, yeah, you're gonna see me there. This is my career. This is my business to be here. But a lot of collectors do really hit the circuits hard. They'll plan all their vacations around it. Like there's a lot of faces I didn't see that I usually see, and a lot of new faces I met. But it wasn't like, oh, it's good to see you again. Like usually it's like, oh, it's nice to meet you this time around. Where I didn't see the usual suspects. No pun intended. But it was a different crowd that passed USN.
Yeah, last year was a little strange. I had some weird experiences. I mean, good experiences. I bought some knives, which is my job, but yeah, last year was a little out of sorts. So I have spoken to some people who mentioned that they are not going this year for whatever reason. And I don't want to start a bank run, but I do feel like this is one of those crucial years for USN. I feel like this year is like, okay, let's figure out what's happening here. Because I know a lot of people are sort of on the fence about Vegas. They've been going there a lot. So I think you're either you're in it, or I think it has passed. I know, right, Chuck? I mean, you're not going this year.
I'm
You
not
didn't go
going
last
this year. I mean, usually I go to just check out the show, hang out with friends, but being Vegas, after 2, maybe 3 days, I've kind of had enough.
Right. After how many years?
Oh,
Yeah, right.
a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you see the same thing over and over.
Sure.
You know, you can only gamble so much if you gamble.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen plenty of the shows there. The Strip hasn't changed a lot in the last couple of years. There really haven't been any new hotels that have gone up.
There's me a newly freshly paved road this time.
It's true.
And there is the Sphere.
There is the Sphere.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah.
I actually really want to see that.
That should be kind of interesting. Yeah.
On 4th of July, they did all kinds of fireworks and stuff on the Sphere. It looked cool.
All right.
So that'd be a cool attraction. But otherwise, you know, Vegas is kind of, it needs some new blood or
Needs something.
something
I don't know.
integrated
It needs
into it to attract people. And especially, you know, if you're a knife maker and you're going to that show all the time, well, you know, you got to find your way through the maze of the hotel to
Sure.
get up to the showroom. You do the show, you know, and then you got to make reservations for restaurants way ahead of time because
Yes.
they're all very busy.
Mhm.
And that time of year, it's hot.
Yeah, it will be very hot, especially since this is the hottest year in record on the face of the planet Earth, which we live on. So Las Vegas will be particularly steamy.
I don't know. My Vegas experience is different now because after 8 years, I'm finally doing the tourist stuff. Like this last time I went was the first time I went to a Vegas show after
That's
going
right.
for like 7 consecutive years.
What did you go see?
No, we went and saw in 2021.
What?
You came and saw a show.
Without you, yeah. I just started
Yeah.
doing my own thing. I was like, I'm
Oh,
just gonna
okay.
go finally.
Alright.
I was like, we were doing all these things. I was like, I've been going. This will be year 8, but I'm like, I've been going for 7 years. I never did Vegas like a tourist. I just did Vegas like an industry person coming for work.
Getting shithoused. That's what that
Yeah,
means.
just working till 6 and then just partying. But I
Yeah.
never actually did shows. So like I don't know. I went to like David Copperfield, David Blaine, 2 shows at the Cosmo. I essentially just went on Groupon. I just started buying like the top thing.
For anyone who's listening and planning on going, a show I would highly recommend is to see Absinthe,
Oh, there you go.
which is in the tent. It's in the courtyard at Caesar's Palace in the tent. It's in the round, so all the seats are great. And I've seen it 3 times. It's fantastic.
You've seen it 3 times?
3 times.
Chuck is a fan of absinthe. Wow.
There's some vaudeville, some acrobatics, some comedy, a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah.
It's about this guy who drinks some absinthe and hallucinates and sees the green fairy. And there's this scantily clad woman dressed as a green fairy who comes down from the ceiling, who does some singing, who, you know, it's well worth the money to go see it.
All right.
Maybe I'll see it this time. I said last time I went, I was just on a kick. I think I was doing like 2 shows a night. I was just grabbing like no one's doing anything. Okay, I'm going to a show.
Yeah, why not?
Nick is ready to live his best 30-year-old middle age.
Yeah, so I was like, I never did it. I just go
Nick
to
is
clubs
gonna
and party.
Nick
I was
is
like,
gonna white woman out Vegas.
Let's start
Get
doing
some
shows.
culture while you're there.
That's it. Okay.
Well, it's like all these biggest shows that have residencies there that like you have to like try to hit it that one weekend a year in your area. I was like, I can just walk a mile in each direction.
Go
and do
see
it.
Cirque du Soleil.
I saw that, but Cirque du Soleil was in New York a lot.
Well, there's a
growing
bunch
up.
of them though. There's Ka, there's Mystere.
I went to one when I was there last time.
I saw the Beatles one. That one was okay.
We'll see what's in town and we'll figure out. I wanted to see.
Go see Carrot Top.
I wanted to see Chris Angel
I've seen that.
because it's
Chris
at Planet
Angel.
Hollywood, which we see. We're right next to it every year. Surprisingly, he was impossible to get tickets for him. Like David Blaine, David Copperfield, same day tickets.
So Chris
Angel
the
was
Chris
out like
Angel
3 or
show
4
is-
weeks.
Is very crazy.
Yeah, it
And
was out
that's
like
why.
it was like sold out for like 3 weeks out. I was like, really?
If it's the same show that I saw a few years ago, the Chris Angel show is like Mind Freak. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's
like,
the My Freak show. I was like, I want to actually see it, even though
Yeah.
because I saw the entrance for 7 years because we're outside the gallery, the room we use at the Planet Hollywood. But I was shocked. I was like, these are sold out 3 weeks in advance.
It's kind of like a Marilyn Manson concert.
Yeah, it's definitely like the heavy.
I just didn't know it was
heavy
still
metal,
that
like,
relevant.
rock.
Like, I definitely remember how crazy it was
Nick,
during the
none
TV.
of these people are relevant outside Vegas. Do you have any idea how old these people are? My God.
Yeah, so I
You know
remember.
how
I
old
remember
Carrot Top is?
Yeah, David Copperfield. Dude, that guy was probably
that was
like
his
20
that
years
was his,
ago.
when I was there, it was supposed to be the last show. He's like, this is the last, like, once we run
Uh-huh.
this circuit, like, we're not designing a new one.
Right.
He's retiring after.
Sure. That's what everybody says until they're like, they go home and get divorced and their wife takes half their money and the IRS is like, we need $5 million.
I don't know.
Back to work, bitches. That's it.
The show was cool.
Yeah.
They used me as a distraction on stage and still don't understand what happened to this day.
See, it worked great.
The guy told me just go in his blanket, and he pulled the blanket away from me, and there was a car over my head, and I was like, I don't understand what just
I don't
happened.
know where I am. I'm high as fuck. I'm so high. Well, USN should be a blast this year, folks. It's going to be great.
Try not to
Something to look
melt.
forward to. Yeah, exactly. Let me think. So, we've got USN at the end of the summer, and then we've got SLC in October, November?
And October 12th?
October
13th
12th. Okay. We're
Yeah.
going to Salt Lake.
For Blade Show West.
Blade Show West. All right. That'll be my first Blade Show West. Didn't go last year. You went last year because
I
you do
went-
the 3 Blade shows.
Yes, I
Okay.
did all 3 of them. I went last year. I went a couple days early, and I went fly fishing
That's right.
with Timote from Blade
The
HQ.
Blade HQ.
That was a lot of fun. The food was great. The scenery was great. So I'm looking forward to Salt Lake City again.
Are you going early again this year?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
I'm going to get there on Thursday, just do the regular show circuit.
Are we getting there early?
I have no idea. I need to check. But speaking of which, we will be going to Salt Lake City.
There's a restaurant we went to
Alright.
called Sundance, which is where they used to hold the Sundance Film Festival. It was owned by Robert Redford,
Interesting.
and now it's grown so big that they had to move the location.
Yeah, because Sundance is in the town over from Salt Lake. It's in that fancy ski town. The hell's it called? Telluride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got too big for
Yeah.
being in Salt Lake City.
All right. Well, we should make some dinner reservations. Nick, you'll be having a table, I assume, selling your wares, you hobo.
Yes, I think we were just looking at the table placement, but I forgot what row it is. I think it's J3, but I could be wrong.
That's definitely not J3. Do you remember your table, Chuck?
I have been moved to the front row
Oh.
because they had a cancellation,
It's 'cause they like
and
Chuck.
they
That's why.
moved me up. So I will be in the front row. I think just off to the right as you come in the door.
Well, I'll just go get fucked. Okay. That's great. Congratulations, Chuck.
After I sell out, I'll send them down to Nick's table.
Yeah, like, oh, go
he's,
check out
he's
that
somewhere
kid.
in the back.
All right.
Yeah, but the corner. I like that I'm just in the aisle row, so it's easy to navigate.
That's right. It is. It's on an aisle corner.
Yeah, and every time I need to walk
I
away, I
don't
don't have to
remember.
like, excuse me. Yeah, it's the back-to-back aisles.
Oh, all right.
I
Well,
think it's J3.
so Salt Lake should be good. In other just general Bladeology news, we are interviewing Kirk Mayberry next week. So hopefully there'll be about a week ripple between this and the next podcast. The reason I mention that is because the 3 people here are also going to be on that same podcast because we all know Kirk.
All right, come
and,
back, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have Chuck on that. And then who else? I got DB Blades lined up for later in the fall. Our Australian friend. I think that's just going to be me and Nick. So yeah, we've got some great guests lined up for the year that I'm looking forward to interviewing. All of these.
Peter Bruno and Ajay Steelbaron, whatever.
Yeah.
Nick Menevig brings him the goddamn mic.
That's right. Whenever that goddamn Nick Menevade, who probably doesn't listen, brings Pete the mic, we'll have the Steel Baron on, which should be very interesting because I think it's a perspective we haven't had, which is a steel supplier who sells you guys the steel. So I think that'll be a nice sort of peek behind the iron curtain there, huh? I see what I did there. Do you see what I did there, Nick? You don't understand the reference.
They can't see your facial expressions.
I'm
Yeah,
picking
but
up what
you
you're
guys
putting
can.
down.
Thank you. All right, I love it, gentlemen. Is there anything else we should go over? We hit all the spice.
The only other show that's happening this year is Kentucky in December. Me and Chuck will be there.
That's
We
it.
will be there.
Is that that's it? So we've got USN, Salt Lake City, Kentucky.
Correct.
Wow. Maybe I'll make it out to Kentucky this year. I haven't been there in a couple of years, actually. Didn't go last year or the year before that, I don't think.
You went the year before.
Did I go the year before?
Yeah, you didn't go last year.
I didn't go last. Oh, because the year before.
The year before didn't happen. The year before was 2 years prior, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
That's
yeah,
when,
whatever.
Well, if
that's
you're
when
gonna-
Robert Carter started practice showing you how to like a roundhouse kick.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, if you're gonna come, you're gonna come on Thursday because on Friday they do a bourbon tour.
Right.
So you can take the bus tour and check out some of the distilleries in
Which
the
I've
area.
never actually done because I get
Never
there
done
Friday morning.
I've done it once.
Was
It was
worth
fun. We went to Maker's Mark. You can buy a bottle, like a barrel-proof bottle there, and dip it in wax yourself.
Oh.
And then some of the other distilleries have bottles you can buy only there. So you
That's
actually
cool.
like Angel's Envy, Buffalo Trace. Some of them you can only
Okay.
buy certain barrel picks and barrel proofs there.
That'd be neat.
I
All right.
think Weller because I see everybody running around with bottles of Weller.
Oh, another podcast note. If you want to watch me embarrass myself, check out the Oil and Whiskey podcast, which I did a few nights ago. They interview me about being a filthy knife dealer. So if you're into that kind of thing, I don't really talk about cars, but I do talk a lot about knives. So that should be interesting. It's a video podcast. You can watch me flail my arms a lot as I talk drastically with my hands as I'm holding them back right now, trying not to
And
gesture.
how much talk was there about whiskey?
Very little, actually. I think they were trying to talk about whiskey, and all I was interested in was really just talking about the smoke wagon that I recently got. That's all I'm drinking right now is just the Vegas stuff. I like it a lot.
Okay.
So look out for that if you're looking to get into more content. Otherwise, this will be out very soon, and we'll be back with Kirk Mayberry in a couple weeks. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to the Bladeology podcast. We'll be back soon. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
To find out more about myself, Jeremiah Burbank, you can email me about the podcast at bladeologypodcast@gmail.com or my work email, info@pvk.com, or you can check out the website, www.pvk.com. To find out more about my co-host, Nick Chuprin, you can find him on Instagram at NCCKnives or on his website, www.nccKnives.com. You can also shoot him an email, contact@nccKnives.com. Chuck Gedraitis can be found on Instagram at Gedraitis Knives, which is GEDRAITIS. You can also find Chuck on Facebook with his Facebook group, Chuck Gedraitis Handcrafted Knives, or shoot him an email, gedraitisknives@yahoo.com.